inability to feel anxiety or fear is a primitive function that has allowed humans to evolve to the place that we are in today. However, what about when anxiety or fear is irrational or misplaced or isn't based on protective properties that are going to help save us from a perceived threat? Anxiety disorders and phobias are becoming more and more prevalent in society today because we're becoming more at peace and willing to talk about our issues. However, treatment for anxiety disorders, or as they were known in the past, neuroses, has informed much of psychological practice stemming back all the way to Freud, and it is something that has persisted through each of the different branches of psychology, whether it be psychodynamic theory, behaviorism, positive psychology, and so on. In 1961, a psychologist named Volpe was interested in using theories of conditioning to help people overcome their phobias and fears. This is where systematic desensitization was formed, or what we may better know today as exposure therapy. Volpe contended that if you could be conditioned to become afraid of something, then you could absolutely become conditioned to be unafraid of it. And that's what formed much of his research and subsequent clinical practice. While this study occurred nearly 70 years ago today, the underlying foundations of it and the general results that came out from it still inform our clinical practice for anxiety and phobia treatment. Volpe proposed a 3-phase program to help people learn how to relax their fears away. Sound like mindfulness? It's because it essentially is. Phase 1 involved teaching people how to relax themselves, becoming in tune with one's body and recognizing how to get your heart rate down, how to reduce trembling, and how to become at peace, how to calm yourself biologically. He used techniques that we would call today progressive muscle relaxation, where it got people to go through each part of their body, tensing it and then relaxing it until they got to a place where they were calm and relaxed. This took place over several sessions until people were comfortable doing it on their own and doing it efficiently. Once Volpe felt that this person was able to induce relaxation at any point they needed, the second phase began. This phase was a little more confronting. This involved the construction of what he coined an anxiety hierarchy. An anxiety hierarchy involved a multi-step process, and the steps could vary depending on the level of fear and what the phobia was, as well as the intensity of it. But this multi-step process aimed to slowly introduce the fear to the person where they could practice relaxing themselves and calming themselves down before moving on to the next step. During this initial construction phase, Volpe focused really heavily on the fact that the person didn't actually have to come into real contact with the fear. So say you're frightened of heights. It's not reasonable in a clinical setting to take somebody out and put them on top of a high building. Instead, he used visualization a lot to try and induce the fear in a safe environment within the clinical setting. Again, something akin to what we see a lot today. Once the anxiety hierarchy had been constructed, the desensitization phase began. What would happen was Volpe would take the anxiety hierarchy and, starting at the top, he would create a scene. He would tell a story and create a visual scene for the person to sit and imagine while they were in the clinic. When the person felt that their anxiety or their fear response was becoming overwhelming, Volpe would stop talking and the person would be encouraged to use the relaxation techniques that they had previously studied to bring themselves back down. Once they had gotten to a calm point, Volpe continued. Again, this is not something that can happen overnight. Volpe actually contended that it took the average person 12 sessions to go from the start of the hierarchy to the end, being able to relax themselves. Conditioning takes time, and it's about reorienting your brain to respond biologically to the stimulus, much like Pavlovian theory. Why are we still talking about this old study so many years from now? Because as I said before, these techniques that Volpe tested way back when still inform much of mindfulness therapy, relaxation therapy, exposure therapy, systematic desensitization, and even underpin a lot of cognitive behavioral therapy, all techniques that are still used clinically today. For that reason, Volpe's work is considered a foundational study of psychology.